I heard some of it from my room. My curate, Arthur Nicholas, opened the door to Charlotte's sitting room and stood there. His face was white and he was shaking. Yes, Mr. Nicholas, Charlotte said. Do you want to come in? No, Miss Charlotte. That is, yes, I have something too important to say to you. I heard his voice stop for a moment and then he went on. I have I have always felt strongly about you, Miss Charlotte, and my feelings are stronger, much stronger than you know. And well, the fact is, Miss Charlotte, that I am asking you to be my wife. There was a long silence. I heard every word and I felt cold and angry. Mr. Nicholas was a good curate, but that was all. I'd paid him £100 a year to help me with my work. But he had no place in my house or in my daughter's bed. I stood up and opened my door. Mr. Nicholas, he turned and looked at me. I could see Charlotte behind him. You will leave this house at once, Mr. Nicholas. I am very, very angry. You must not speak to my daughter again ever. Do you understand me? The stupid man was shaking and almost crying. I thought he was ill. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Then he turned and went out of the door. Mr. Nicholas stayed in his own house for 3 days. He refused to eat, the stupid man, and he sent me some angry letters. But Charlotte wrote to him to say that she would not marry him. Then Mr. Nicholas said he would leave Harvard and go to Australia. On his last day in church, he had to give people bread to eat. But he held out the bread to Charlotte. He could not do it because he was shaking and crying so much. Afterwards, the people of Harvard gave him a gold watch. He cried about that too. I thought it was all finished, but I was wrong. I think he wrote to Charlotte and she wrote back. In April of 1854, he came back to Harvard. Charlotte brought him into my room. I looked at him, but I said nothing. I was not pleased. Papa, Charlotte said, Mr. Nicholas and I have something to say to you. I did not like that, Mr. Nicholas and I. It did not sound good to me. I am busy, I said. I have a lot of work. Charlotte smiled. That is because you don't have a good curate, Papa. When Mr. Nicholas was here, your life was easy. Perhaps, I said. But he was going to Australia, I thought. Why have not you gone, sir? Mr. Nicholas spoke for the first time. He looked very tall and proud, I thought. There are 2 reasons, sir, he said. Because I have decided not to go to Australia, and also he stopped and looked down at Charlotte. She smiled up at him and I felt my blood run cold. And also because your daughter Charlotte and I would like to be married. We have come to ask you to agree. I don't remember what I said next. I think there were a lot of unkind words between us and some tears. But in the end, I agreed. I agreed because Charlotte wanted it, not for because of Arthur Nicholas. In June that year, they were married in my church. I did not go. I could not give Charlotte away to that man, but he came back here to be my curate, and he and Charlotte lived in this house with me. He is still here now. Perhaps he will read this. If he does, he will know that he was right and I was wrong. Mr. Nicholas was after that a good husband for my Charlotte. I understood after a while that he honestly loved her and he could make her happy. She began to smile and laugh again. Her eyes shone. She sang sometimes as she worked. Our house became a home again. She went with him to see his family in Ireland and traveled to the far west of that country. Mr. Nicholas did most of my church work for me. Charlotte began a new book, Emma, she called it. And one day in December 1854, she came into my room smiling. I could see that she was excited. What is it, my dear? Have you finished your book? No, not yet, Papa. But I have something wonderful to tell you. What do you think? I don't know, my dear. If it's not your book, then I told Arthur yesterday, I'm going to have a child. I did not say anything. Her hand was on the table, and I put my hand on it gently. It was a wonderful news. I remembered when my own wife Maria had told me this, and how this house had been full of laughter, of little voices, and the noise of running feet. Charlotte and I sat like that for a long time, remembering. It did not happen. At Christmas, she fell ill, and in the new year, she was worse. She felt sick all the time because of the baby, and she ate nothing. She lay in the bed all day, hot and coughing. Arthur Nicholas cared for her wonderfully. I think he often stayed awake all night, but it didn't help. On 31st March 1855, the last of my 6 children died. It was early in the morning. Arthur Nicholas was sitting by her bed, and I was standing by the door. She was asleep with her hand in his. Her face was very thin and pale. She opened her eyes and saw him, and I saw fear in her face. Oh God, she whispered. I'm not going to die, am I? Please don't take me away from Arthur now. We have been so happy. Those were the last words she ever said. A little while later, I walked slowly out of the house. As I went into the graveyard, the church bell began to ring. It was ringing to tell Harvard and all the world that Charlotte Bronte was dead.